Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you're new. I'm Nainika and I make book related videos, and as you can see in today's video I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I read in February, and I hope you have a good time. So if I'm looking down or in front of me, it's because I have my notes right in front. I read a total of 7 books in February, and overall it was a more or less nice enough reading month. It could have been better, but unfortunately I didn't read that many spectacular books. So out of all the 7 books I read, 6 were adult romances and 1 was sort of literary fiction short story collection, and I'm going to begin my review by sharing with you all that very short story collection, and it is The Blue Woman by Anukriti Upadhyay. Now this was actually a review copy that was sent to me by HarperCollins India, and I'm very grateful to them for sending me this book. So I think that Anukriti Upadhyay's writing, this was my first Anukriti Upadhyay work by the way, and I think her writing is very, it blurs the lines between the real and the imaginary. It's very sensual as well, and sensual in a way that it is a life thing and it speaks to you, and it's I mean I really enjoy these stories in the collection. And there is this short paragraph that I wrote after I read this book, and I think I'm going to share that paragraph with you because I think it really I couldn't have expressed myself better than what I wrote in that paragraph regarding my thoughts about this book. So I wrote, women frolic and live and die and fear in these stories. Women earn and forgive and philosophize and grow and regret and rage. Women everywhere, feeling all the feelings there are. And here we have a woman writer penning down all these myriad emotions that women feel. It is a wonderful realization to have while reading this book, that you are just a speck amidst so many of these other women, but at the same time your feelings have been felt by others too. You as a woman, with all your ugly and socially unacceptable, are not alone. From the physical expression of inner anguish through the blistering of skin from standing in front of a funeral pyre, which we see in the short story named Mona in this collection, a very atmospheric and spellbinding exhibition of color in the short story Sona, to a sensual attachment with a creature often ostracized and hated in Janki and the Bat, and a floral telling of grief and regret in the Satsuma plant, Upadhyay proves that she has the luminous ability to sew the human and the less tangible together and make magic out of everyday life through her beautiful writing. And this was overall a 4-star read for me, and I hope you definitely give it a try. Anukriti Upadhyay is also the writer, the author of Kintsugi, Dora and Bhauri, and all 3 are on my TBR, so maybe sometime soon I'll get to them as well. Moving on, I'll start with the adult romances that I read, and the first one that I have to share with you all is Book Lovers. Now Book Lovers is my first Emily Henry book, and I have to tell you, I am not going back. I really enjoyed this book. So this was actually a Secret Santa gift from my colleague back at the office. Of course it occurred sometime during Christmas, and it is only in February that I finally got to read this book. I think that this was a really fun read, and like the name suggests, it's about 2 people who are kind of very different in how they function, their whole belief system, but they both are book lovers. And so in that aspect I found this book to be very meta. As a reader you relate to so many things, and I'm sure that any reader all over the world is going to relate to this. And it also has all of those, nice tropes, like for instance small town romance, then doing your best to save a small business in that small town. The people you find meddlesome start to seem sweet to you, you form familial bonds with them, you find romance of course, and all of that. So it was a very interesting book in that sense. We follow 2 characters. One is Nora. She's a cutthroat literary agent at the top of her game. Her whole life is books. And we follow Charlie, who is an editor with a gift for creating bestsellers, and he's Nora's work nemesis. So in that they are both enemies to lovers scenario as well, and basically they work in, I think, was it New York or Manhattan, in a very fast-paced world, but then they come back to sort of like rest in this small town, and they bump into each other very unexpectedly, and things grow from there. So there's also a sisterly bond in this book, which was very, very interesting. There's a lot of talking about books, about editing, and since I am an editor as well, I really related to a lot of it, and it was fun. And yeah, however, I have to say that I rated this book 3 out of 5 stars because I did not swoon. Now that said, in this book's defense, it is two adults in love who eventually fall in love, and so they work it out and everything. There's a lot of communication as well, but when I was reading it, I wanted some angst, I wanted some swooning and everything. It was very sweet, but at the same time I felt like their romance was very mature, very suitable, very calming and all of that, but I wanted something more angsty, probably not what I should have expected from this book, and so at that moment I wasn't very, very happy with it. So overall, it was a 3-star read for me, and I really, really enjoyed it overall. And I would definitely say that you can check out Emily Henry's book because the hype is there for a reason. I did enjoy it, and I would definitely recommend it. Now I'm going to quickly tell you about the other book that I read, the next book that I read, which is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This was actually a paperback that I borrowed from a friend, and now I've given it back to her. Now this is also very similar in the fact that it happens in a small town. The setting is a small town. There's also the issue of twins, and so in the beginning, for maybe a chapter only, there's this whole mistaken identity sort of thing. There's also a kid involved and everything. However, I did not really enjoy this book because these two characters, the female lead and the male lead, they are like over 35. They're both very adults, but the way they act was very, very unrealistic, and not the way how I would expect such adults to act. So basically what happens is that this girl comes back. She's a runaway bride. Basically she comes back to this town because her twin sister has called her and asks for her help, and it turns out that the twin sister has left behind a little girl. So now our heroine has to take care of the girl and then sort of like settle down in that town because that evil twin has stolen her money, has stolen her car and everything, and she's escaped. And we have this hero who is a very grumpy, so it's a grumpy sunshine story as well. He's there, he's reluctant to help her at first, but then eventually they bump into each other again and again, and love blossoms, of course, and that's how it proceeds. But overall it was kind of unrealistic at some points, so I didn't really have the best time reading it. But that said, I'm a person who reads romance for fun, so I don't judge romances very, very critically, so I won't give you a very critical analysis of the books. But that said, for the fun factor, for the enjoyment factor, for a one-time read, this was a pretty fine book. So yeah, I definitely do recommend you check it out. Then I read Loath to Love You by Ali Hazelwood, and this is a collection of 3 short stories, more or less, novella collection. I have actually read both the Ali Hazelwood books so far, The Love Hypothesis, and what was the other one? I forgot the name, but I'll put the picture on the screen somewhere here. I've read both of them and I really enjoyed them, but somehow this short story collection wasn't the one for me. It didn't really gel well. I enjoyed the stories, yes, but only for a very surface level. I didn't enjoy it a lot compared to the novels. Maybe it was because of the length and everything. I would have preferred more of an in-depth look into the characters, of the formation of their love stories and everything. So basically, let me share the details about the stories with you. So there are 3 stories. The first one is Under One Roof. An environmental engineer discovers that scientists should never cohabitate when she finds herself stuck with a roommate from hell, a detestable big oil lawyer who won't leave the thermostat alone. Then we have Stuck With You. A civil engineer and her nemesis take their rivalry and love to the next level when they get stuck in a New York elevator. Below Zero, a NASA aerospace engineer's frozen heart melts as she lies inches and stranded at a remote Arctic research station, and the only person willing to undertake the dangerous rescue mission is her long-term rival. So yeah, so I think my favorite one was probably Stuck With You, where they're both stuck in the elevator, because it kind of reminded me of the Hating Game as well, that particular scene when they first kissed. But I think that Ali Hazelwood really uses the communication gap, miscommunication trope a lot in her stories, so I'm kind of icky about that. I don't know how to feel about that, to be very honest, but it is also very interesting at the same time to come across these various characters, especially because it's not very often that I come across women in STEM, basically in romance novels. But in Ali Hazelwood's books, everybody is like a scientist, an engineer, all of that, basically in the sciences. So that's a very interesting viewpoint that I've gotten from her books. So yeah, this was a quick read. I think I read it in a day when I was just chilling on a Sunday. So that was that, and I rated it 3 stars. Alright, so the next book that I read is The Temporary Wife by Katharina Mora. Now, back in January, I read The Wrong Bride by Katharina Mora, and I really enjoyed it. And so I decided that I would read the next book in the series. I'm not really sure what the series is called, the name of the series, but it's basically a collection of interconnected novellas. You know, in book 1, that is The Wrong Bride. The Wrong Bride? What was the name? Yeah, The Wrong Bride, we followed one brother, and then in this book, that is The Temporary Wife, we followed the other brother. So basically what happens is, in The Temporary Bride, we have Luca and Valentina, the billionaire boss, and Valentina is his secretary, and she's been working for him for the longest time, but then finally it snaps, because she wants to leave, and he's betrothed to someone, so she wants to leave, but he isn't willing to let her go. So it has that whole boss secretary marriage of convenience and sharing a bed strokes down pat. It's done really well. However, I did have when I first read the first book, that is A Temporary Wife, I didn't think The Wrong Bride, I didn't think so much about it. But when reading Temporary Bride, I had Temporary Wife, I'm mixing up the names, but basically while reading Temporary Wife, I saw the issues that were there, which I did not see in the first book, that is The Wrong Bride. For instance, the grandmother is very tyrannical. Because Luca does not marry the woman that the grandmother, wants him to marry, an arranged marriage, she basically disinherits him. He becomes penniless and all of that. But the issue is, you disinherit someone, and that's it, right? But it all turns out to be a ruse. She's just been playing with them the whole time, because she thought there was some connection between the two of them, and she wanted them to get together in their own time and all of that. But it just seemed so evil to me. I don't like the grandmother at all. I know you're supposed to love her and everything, because she's this really great matchmaker, but it's just no. And Valentina's mother wasn't that great either. I know she had her own issues, but at a point it felt like the greatest hurdles that both of these characters had to face were their own families, because it felt like it was their own families that did not want them together or want them to be happy. So that was an issue that I thought was prevalent, which I didn't see in the first book. Also, it was quite long. Could have been shorter, because a lot of the things were feeling repetitive. They were having I like when the characters communicate, but these two people were communicating too much, so much so that the page count increased way more. Could have been shorter, but yeah, I think, what did I rate? I rated it 3 stars. So yeah, but that said, it was a fun book. I do think I prefer book 1 more, The Wrong Bride, than The Temporary Wife. So yeah. Okay, then I read 2 more books. They were Blackmailed by the Grump by Alex O'Reilly, which I rated 3 stars, and I also read Fierce King by Sinead Kincaid, which I rated 3 stars. Now, looking back, I think I should have rated them 2 stars, because I actually remember shit about those books. I don't remember anything about those books, so I'm gonna leave it at that. If you're interested, you can definitely check them out, but I have to clarify, I am going to rate both of these books 2 stars, because not worth it. So yeah, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this quick, I don't even know how long this video is. I hope you enjoyed this video. I think it was an okay month reading. Could have been better. Hopefully in March I'll read more. I'll read better books, and I'll have more enjoyment reading the books. So yeah, that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you again sometime soon. Take care. Bye.